Astra in Space starts off as an incredible story about a group of high schoolers stranded in harsh void space, desperately trying to survive. But after it hits you of the holy trinity of politics, euthanasia and awkward teenage drama, you're left to think, what the fuck went wrong here? In a futuristic world where they still have shitty school trips, a group of 9 high schoolers have the only interesting experience anybody has ever had on one, besides being offered weed by a dodgy old guy in Germany. Arriving at their camp at Planning McPa, we're introduced to the only 2 of our main gang that have any meaningful personality, before a plot device wall crashes into the group, warping them exactly 5,012 light years into outer space. They're left floating aimlessly with rapidly emptying oxygen and fuel in their spacesuits, stranded with dread quickly setting in that this is likely the end of them. Of course, any tension this situation would have possibly caused is immediately undercut by the fact they conveniently teleported next to a fully functional, completely fueled and abandoned spaceship. That's actually a sentiment that passes through pretty much the entire show, where large problems they'd have a great deal of difficulty solving are almost immediately resolved by the power of friendship and a great deal of very unlikely and convenient events. Of course, it's not all doom and gloom, because they take breaks from their desperate quest for survival for beach episodes and fan service. Look, I'm not complaining, but I am getting ahead of myself because this show is carried on the back of 2 things, the world and the characters. And the first is definitely done better than the second. There are 9 of these assholes and half of them are essentially one-hit punchlines, whether that be the emo or the femboy. The rest are an assortment of people with family issues and a collection of arbitrary skills that happen to apply to every single situation they come across. But on a more personality-based level, they're 50-50. The main character is a complete brain-dead self-insert, but the rest have, for the most part, some manner of personality, even if most of them are just arseholes. The heroine may be Aries, who has 2 brain cells and a personality fit, but the best character arc is undeniably that of Yun-Hua Liu, and yes, I did butcher that. Throughout the show she goes from kinda cute to hot to very hot, which, let's be honest, is the only character development that really matters. And I think that completely makes up for the fact of her being completely useless in every single way, whether that be skills or straight up having any impact on the plot. Not everybody on the internet agrees with me. The show relies pretty heavily on your emotional connection to these characters for the purpose of literally anything in the show having a meaning. And that's not necessarily a bad choice because they're not terribly written. The thing is that watching the show, you don't really give a shit about any of them. I feel more heart tugs watching my bagel fall on the ground than I do seeing Emo Boy have his redemption arc by becoming just slightly less of a prick. There is a twist though. Among them is an imposter, a traitor waiting and watching for any opportunity to push them all into certain death. Thankfully though, they're a very plot-friendly traitor, because they're kind enough not to really take any of the many opportunities that would have actually worked out, and instead they go for the worst possible situation where they can easily be neutralized, near the end of the show, and then unsuccessfully try to kill themselves. As for who this is, well, for that to make sense I'll have to take 2, 3, actually quite a few steps back, to the point where the show kills itself. At some point around the midway line of the show, the author must have began taking heavy dosages of cocaine, heroin and Viagra, because he takes the decent, if not slightly standard formula he's made for himself, and decides that he wants to completely derail that. I'll summarize it real quick because to be honest I don't completely understand it anyway. They're all a product of a cloning wing which is intended to create copies of humans in order to splice themselves into the body, organ harvesting, order-strip experimentation. All of them were raised by the originals, who didn't love them except for Ares, who was a copy of a pretty hot princess who was pushed off a cliff. And she was made by the king to be spare organ parts for the princess, but the princess faked Ares' death in order to get her to escape with a maidservant. The clone of the king was trained into a die-hard loyalist, who would sacrifice himself for the monarchy, but even more loyal to Princess Sierra, who treated him like a brother, despite being genetically her father, which is kinda weird. Intergalactic law changed in order to outlaw rogue cloning, and so all the people in the ring decided to plot a covert assassination, despite them varying between king of a planet to a high school teacher. And this can go either way for you. Either you go, oh I see, that was deep and heavy but unexpected and original, or slightly more commonly, what the actual fuck was that? I didn't sign up for this shit. And honestly, the further you get towards the ending, the more complicated and stupid it gets. In fact, the ending is just them restoring communications, calling home, and then just snitching to the police who arrest everybody. Like at this point, I expect heads to roll, blood, guts, and impromptu executions, not police calls and arrests. But in the end, there's a good ending. After time skip, all the characters become incredibly hot. oh yeah, and Charles ascends to become king and they all achieve their dreams and stuff, but they become very hot, and that's kind of more important, to be honest. The art in this show was very good, no complaints here, just one big thumbs up, and I don't do that often. Actually, and this is the end of the funny part for those of you who are here for that, I'm just going to talk briefly about my actual opinion on the show. I liked it. It was pretty damn good, which made it kind of hard sometimes to find things to shit on for this video, so you may notice that some of these are a bit of a stretch. Although, yeah, I do think it would have been better if they didn't randomly go off into deep territory, but the characters here were interesting enough to be around and more compelling than what I let on before. Anyway, although it may surprise you all, yeah, there are no sex jokes here, no weird clickbait, kinda, or anything like that, just a more down-to-earth video. That's not going to be here for long, because, you know, clickbait about, like, hot girls or, like, sex topics is incredibly good. It works wonders for anybody, like, trying to make their own anime or whatever YouTube channel. It works if you do it properly. Right, that's all for me for the next 2 weeks, and wish me luck for exams, because I need it. See ya.